The rain pounded against Jack Miller's workshop windows as thunder rolled across the Montana sky. His hands were covered in grease, working late into the night to finish fixing old Tom's tractor. At 42, Jack had spent most of his life fixing things in the small town, and he was good at it. Really good. A bright flash lit up the sky. Jack looked up from his work, expecting to see lightning, but this light was different. It was blue-green and moved in a way that lightning never did. Through the workshop's dirty windows, he watched as something huge and burning cut through the storm clouds. The object crashed into his backfield with a boom that shook the whole workshop. Tools rattled on their hooks, and his coffee mug fell off the workbench, shattering on the concrete floor. "Well, that's not normal," Jack muttered, grabbing his heavy-duty flashlight and rain jacket. He didn't bother calling anyone. Phone service always got spotty during big storms anyway. The rain soaked through his clothes as he trudged through the mud toward the crash site. The darkness and rain made it hard to see, but the strange blue glow coming from his field led the way. As he got closer, Jack could see that whatever had crashed had dug a deep trench through his wheat field. What he found wasn't any kind of airplane or helicopter. The object was about the size of a small bus, but its shape was all wrong, smooth and curved like a teardrop, with a surface that seemed to shift colors even in the dim light. Steam rose from its hull where the rain hit it. "This is either the strangest weather balloon I've ever seen, or—" Jack's voice trailed off as he noticed a crack in the ship's hull. Inside, something was moving. Most people would have run away. Most people would have called the police or the army. But Jack had spent his whole life fixing things and helping people when they were in trouble. It was just who he was. He approached carefully, shining his flashlight through the crack. Inside, he saw something that changed his life forever. A creature lay trapped in what looked like a control room. It was roughly human-sized, but seemed to be made of living crystal. Its transparent body glowed with patterns of light that pulsed weakly, like a fading heartbeat. The creature's crystalline form was cracked in several places. Jack didn't know much about alien biology, but he knew broken when he saw it. The beam turned toward his flashlight, and patterns of red and yellow light flickered across its surface. Jack held up his empty hand, trying to show he meant no harm. "Hey there," he said softly, the way he'd talk to a scared animal. "Looks like you're in a bit of trouble." The alien's lights pulsed rapidly, making patterns Jack couldn't understand. But he did understand the universal language of fear and pain in the way it tried to move away from him, only to stop with what seemed like a wince. "I'm not going to hurt you," Jack said, staying where he was. "I fix things. It's what I do. And it looks like you need some fixing." The alien's lights dimmed briefly, then brightened. It made a gesture that looked almost like a nod. Jack smiled. "Okay then. Let's get you somewhere dry first. My workshop's not exactly a hospital, but it's better than lying here in the rain." As he carefully helped the crystalline being out of the wreckage, Jack noticed more lights appearing in the sky. Different from the alien ship, more like searchlights. He had a feeling things were about to get complicated. "We better hurry," he told his new alien friend, supporting its weight as they moved toward the workshop. "Something tells me we're about to have company, and I don't think they're the welcoming kind." The alien's body pulsed with what seemed like agreement, its lights now cycling through shades of blue. Together, they made their way through the rain and darkness, an unlikely pair brought together by chance and about to change the course of human-alien relations forever. Though neither of them knew it yet. Jack's workshop wasn't much, but it was dry and warm. He cleared off his work table, laying down clean blankets before helping the crystal alien onto it. The beam's lights flickered weakly, casting colorful shadows on the workshop walls. "First things first," Jack said, pulling his toolbox closer. "We need to fix those cracks." He studied the alien's crystalline body carefully. The largest crack ran from what seemed like its shoulder down to its midsection. The alien's lights pulsed rapidly in what looked like panic when Jack reached for his tools. Red and orange patterns flashed across its surface. "Hey, it's okay," Jack said softly. He picked up a small flashlight and pointed it at himself, then slowly moved the beam through his fingers, making patterns. The alien's lights steadied, watching intently. Jack smiled. See, light. We can talk through light. He pointed to the crack in the alien's form, then held up a tube of his strongest epoxy adhesive. He used the flashlight to make slow, steady patterns, trying to explain his intent. The alien's lights shifted to a curious blue-green. It reached out slowly, touching the epoxy tube with one crystalline finger. After a moment, it made a gesture that seemed like agreement. Jack worked carefully, using the skills he'd learned fixing delicate engine parts. He cleaned each crack with gentle precision, then applied the epoxy with steady hands. The alien watched him work, its lights changing from nervous reds to calmer blues. You know, Jack said as he worked, I always wondered if we were alone out here. Guess that answers that question. He chuckled softly, though I didn't expect my first alien visitor to be quite so sparkly. The alien's lights rippled in a pattern that almost looked like laughter. It pointed to Jack's old truck in the corner of the workshop, then made a series of light patterns. Jack watched carefully. Are you asking about our technology? He wiped his hands on a clean rag and walked over to the truck. This old girl, she's simple, but she works. Sometimes the simple things are the best things. He opened the hood, showing the engine. The alien managed to stand, moving closer with interest. Its lights pulsed rapidly as it studied the mechanical parts. Jack noticed the epoxy was already setting, holding the cracks together perfectly. The alien made more light patterns, pointing at different engine parts. Jack grinned, recognizing the universal look of curiosity. He began explaining how the engine worked, using gestures and simple demonstrations. The alien's lights flickered in patterns that seemed more and more excited. Suddenly, the alien straightened up. It pointed to Jack's tools, then to its crashed ship outside, making urgent light patterns. The ship, Jack asked. You want to try fixing it? The alien nodded, a human gesture it seemed to have picked up from Jack. Its lights formed complex patterns that Jack was starting to recognize as enthusiasm. Well, Jack said, gathering his tools, I fixed just about everything else in this town. Might as well add alien spaceship mechanic to my resume. As they prepared to head back out to the crash site, the alien touched Jack's shoulder. Its entire body glowed with a warm golden light that filled the workshop. The pattern was different from anything it had shown before. Simpler, but somehow more meaningful. Jack understood. It was saying thank you. You're welcome, he said simply. Now let's see what we can do about your ride. Just then, they heard the distant sound of helicopters. The alien's lights shifted to alarmed reds and purples. Jack looked out the window at the approaching aircraft lights. Change of plans, he said, quickly gathering more tools. Looks like we're going to have to fix your ship faster than we thought. Good thing I work well under pressure. The alien's lights steadied into a determined blue pattern. Together, they faced the workshop door, ready to tackle whatever challenges came next. A human and an alien, united by the universal languages of kindness and mechanical engineering. The sound of helicopter blades grew louder as Jack and the alien rushed back to the crash site. Rain still poured from the dark sky, but now searchlights cut through the darkness, sweeping across the fields. We need to hide your ship, Jack said, his mind racing. The alien flashed worried patterns of red and purple light. Jack looked around his property, then smiled as an idea hit him. The old barn, it's big enough, and I've got my tractor in there. We can pull the ship inside. The alien's lights shifted to a questioning blue pattern. Jack pointed to his tractor, then to the ship, making pulling motions. The alien's lights brightened with understanding. They worked quickly in the rain. Jack hooked strong chains from his tractor to the alien ship, while his new friend used its remaining working systems to help lighten the craft. Together, they managed to drag the damaged vessel across the muddy field toward the barn. Just as they got the ship inside, two black helicopters roared overhead. Jack quickly closed the barn doors and turned to the alien. "They're looking for you, aren't they?" And not in a friendly way. The alien's body pulsed with dark reds and blacks. It pointed upward, then made a crushing motion with its crystalline hands. Jack understood. There were enemies in space too, probably coming to look for the crash. "Well, they can't have you," Jack said firmly. "I've got a plan, but you'll have to trust me." The alien's lights steadied into a calm blue. Trust had already been built between them through Jack's earlier help. It nodded. Jack got to work. He covered the alien ship with old tarps and hay, making it look like just another piece of farm equipment. Then he grabbed his radio scanner from his workshop, a hobby tool he used to track weather reports. He turned it on, picking up the chatter from the helicopters. "Target location confirmed. Sweep the area. All units approach with caution." The alien watched the radio with fascination, its lights dimming to avoid detection. Jack smiled. Sometimes the simple tech works better. They're probably looking for high-tech signals, not an old radio. Suddenly, a bright light flashed outside the barn. The alien's body tensed, lights nearly going dark. Jack held up a hand, signaling for calm. He kicked some mud over his and the alien's tracks, then grabbed a wrench. The barn door creaked open. A beam of light cut through the darkness. "Evening, officers," Jack called out casually, pretending to work on his tractor. "Quite a night for a flight, isn't it?" Two men in black suits entered, flashlights sweeping the barn. "Sir, we're investigating an unusual occurrence in this area. Did you see anything strange tonight?" Jack wiped his hands on a rag, looking thoughtful. "Well, I saw some weird lights in the storm. Figured it was just heat lightning. Been too busy fixing this old tractor to pay much attention." He patted the tractor's hood, coincidentally blocking their view of what lay behind it. The men looked around suspiciously, but all they saw was a typical barn, farm equipment, hay, tools, and a mud-covered local mechanic working late. "If you see anything unusual, call this number immediately," one agent said, handing Jack a card. "Will do," Jack replied cheerfully. "Though the only unusual thing around here is this tractor actually working right for once." The men left, their helicopters soon moving on to search other areas. Once they were gone, the alien's lights brightened again, pulsing with what seemed like relief and admiration. Jack grinned. Sometimes the best hiding spot is right in plain sight. "Now let's take a look at your ship's damage. We need to get it fixed before your unfriendly friends up there come looking too." The alien's lights danced with determination. It pointed to the ship's engine area, then to Jack's tools, making patterns that suggested urgency. "Right," Jack said, rolling up his sleeves. "Time to see what human ingenuity can do with alien technology. This should be interesting." While waiting for parts of the spaceship's hull to cool down enough to work on, Jack and the alien found themselves sharing an unexpected quiet moment in the barn. Rain continued to drum on the roof, creating a peaceful backdrop to their unusual situation. The alien watched with glowing curiosity as Jack pulled out his lunchbox. Its lights formed questioning patterns when Jack bit into his sandwich. "Oh, right," Jack said, realizing this might be completely foreign to the crystalline being. "This is how humans get energy. We eat food." He held up his sandwich. "We take different things and put them together to make something better." The alien's lights pulsed rapidly, showing interest. It pointed to the sandwich, then to the tools, then made a pattern that seemed to suggest similarity. Jack laughed. "Yeah, I guess it is kind of like fixing things. You take parts and combine them to make something that works better." He pulled out his old radio and turned it on. Soft music filled the barn. The alien's entire body lit up with amazement. Its crystal form vibrated slightly with the music's rhythm, creating beautiful patterns of light that danced with the tune. "You like that?" Jack smiled. "It's just an old country song, but music's one of those things that makes life better." He tapped his foot to the beat, and after a moment, The alien copied him, its lights pulsing in time with the music. While they listened, the alien pointed to various tools in the barn, asking questions through light patterns. Jack explained each one, showing how simple machines could solve complex problems. "See this wrench?" He held it up. "It's just a piece of metal, but with the right know-how, it can fix almost anything." He demonstrated by adjusting a bolt on his tractor. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones. The alien's lights flickered thoughtfully. It reached out and picked up a screwdriver, turning it over in its crystalline hands. Then it made patterns that Jack was starting to understand meant confusion or surprise. "Let me guess," Jack said. "Your people have machines that do all this automatically." The alien nodded, its lights showing agreement. "Well, doing things by hand might be slower, but it teaches you how things really work. Plus, machines can't problem solve like a person can." Just then, the alien noticed something on Jack's workbench, an old music box that he was fixing for a neighbor. Its lights brightened with interest as Jack wound it up, and a simple tune played out. The alien's body glowed with delight at the purely mechanical music. It carefully opened the box, studying the simple mechanism of pins and comb that created the melody. Its lights pulsed in patterns of amazement at such elegant simplicity. Sometimes, Jack said, watching the alien examine the music box, the most beautiful things are the simplest ones. The alien set down the music box and made a series of light patterns. Though Jack couldn't understand the exact meaning, the slow, deliberate pulses seemed thoughtful, almost philosophical. Together, they turned back to the damaged spaceship. The alien pointed to several highly advanced systems, then to Jack's basic tools, its lights forming patterns that suggested a new appreciation for human ingenuity. "We'll figure it out," Jack assured his friend. "Maybe we can combine your advanced knowledge with some good old-fashioned human problem-solving." The alien's lights glowed warmly in agreement. It picked up a wrench, holding it with new respect. Then it pointed to the ship's damaged engine and made a show-me gesture. Jack grinned. "All right then, let me teach you how humans fix things." He grabbed his toolbox, ready to share his knowledge. "Just remember, sometimes the best solution isn't the fanciest one. It's the one that works." As they began working together, the alien's lights pulsed in sync with the radio's music, creating a beautiful display that filled the barn. Two very different beings, learning from each other, finding common ground in the universal language of creativity and problem-solving. The peaceful moment in the barn ended with a deep rumble that shook the earth. Jack and his alien friend rushed to the door and looked up at the sky. Through breaks in the clouds, they saw three large ships descending, angular and dark, nothing like the smooth curves of his friend's vessel. The alien's body flashed with patterns of deep red and black. "Fear. Warning. Those are the bad guys, aren't they?" Jack asked. The alien nodded, its lights pulsing rapidly with urgency. They hurried back to the damaged ship. The alien pointed to a screen that had started working again, showing three dots moving toward their location. Its lights formed patterns that Jack had learned meant danger. "How long until they get here?" Jack asked, pointing at the dots. The alien held up 4 crystalline fingers. 4 minutes. Jack looked around his barn, mind racing. "Okay, we've got some of your ship's systems working again. What if we—" He grabbed a piece of paper and quickly drew a plan. The alien's lights brightened with understanding. They worked faster than ever before. Jack connected parts from his old tractor's engine to the alien ship's power system. The alien rerouted energy through these simple mechanical parts, creating something entirely new. "Sometimes the best weapon is the one the enemy doesn't expect," Jack said, attaching jumper cables to the ship's hull. The alien's lights pulsed in agreement as it modified its ship's remaining defense systems. Hostile ships were almost on top of them when they finished. Jack could hear their engines now, a harsh sound that made his teeth rattle. He looked at his alien friend. "Ready?" The alien's body glowed with determined blue light. It pressed a crystal hand against the barn wall, making patterns that Jack understood meant friendship and trust. Suddenly, the barn doors burst open. 3 tall figures stood there, wearing black armor that seemed to absorb light. They carried weapons that hummed with energy. "Step away from the fugitive," one of them commanded in a harsh, mechanical voice. Jack wiped his hands on his work clothes and stepped forward. "Now, folks, I don't want any trouble, but this here's my property, and my friend here is under my protection." The alien soldiers raised their weapons. "Your primitive weapons cannot harm us. Surrender the fugitive." Jack smiled. Primitive? Maybe, but sometimes the old ways work best. He reached behind him and flipped the switch they'd prepared. The modified ship's hull lit up with power borrowed from Jack's tractor battery, amplified through the alien's crystal technology. The energy pulse wasn't fancy or high-tech. It was raw, simple electricity, but channeled through alien crystals in a way the enemy's advanced shields never expected. The hostile aliens' weapons and armor shut down instantly. They stumbled, confused by this impossible combination of primitive and advanced technology. What is this?" their leader demanded. "Just a little human ingenuity," Jack said, as his alien friend activated the ship's newly modified defense system. A field of crystal-enhanced energy surrounded the barn, trapping the hostile aliens inside. The aliens' lights danced with triumph as it sent a signal through the ship's repaired communication system. Within minutes, they heard new ships approaching, these ones with markings matching his friend's vessel. "Looks like the cavalry's arrived," Jack said, watching as the hostile aliens were taken into custody by their own kind. His alien friend's lights pulsed with patterns of joy and gratitude. The leader of the hostile group looked at Jack with what seemed like disbelief. "How did primitives like you defeat our advanced technology?" Jack shrugged, picking up his old wrench. "Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. And never underestimate a mechanic with a well-stocked toolbox." His alien friend glowed with bright, happy patterns, creating a light show that filled the barn with beautiful colors. Together, they had proved that true advancement isn't just about technology. It's about creativity, friendship, and thinking outside the box. 1 week after the fight at the barn, Jack found himself in a very unusual situation. His alien friend had insisted he come along to the emergency meeting of the Galactic Council. Now he stood in a massive crystal chamber, surrounded by beings of different shapes, sizes, and colors. Jack felt out of place in his clean work clothes and boots, but his alien friend's encouraging light patterns helped him stay calm. They stood together before the council, ready to tell their story. The head counselor, a larger crystalline being with complex light patterns swirling through their form, spoke first. "We have gathered to discuss the incident on Earth and the unprecedented cooperation between a human and one of our kind." Jack's friend stepped forward, its lights forming clear, strong patterns. Another crystal being translated. "Honored Council, I was wrong about humans. We all were. We called them primitive because they still use simple tools and mechanical devices. But I have learned that true advancement isn't just about having the most complex technology." The alien showed images of their time in Jack's workshop, fixing the ship, creating music, sharing meals, and finally defeating the hostile aliens. Its lights pulsed with emotion as it spoke. "This human, using only simple tools and creativity, helped me survive. He showed me that doing things by hand teaches understanding that automatic systems cannot give. His primitive solutions combined with our technology in ways we never imagined possible." The council chamber filled with surprised light patterns and murmurs. Jack stood straight, trying to look confident despite feeling like the smallest person in the room. "But most importantly," his friend continued, "he helped me without knowing who or what I was. He showed kindness simply because it was right. This is a wisdom that our civilization, for all its advancement, has begun to forget." The head counselor's lights pulsed thoughtfully. "You were one of our strongest voices against contact with humans. Now you defend them. Why?" Jack's friend gestured to the tools Jack had brought. A wrench, a screwdriver, and the small music box, because they understand something we have forgotten. Technology should serve life, not replace its experiences. Watch. The alien wound up the music box. Simple, mechanical music filled the chamber. Many of the crystal beings lit up with wonder at the purely mechanical device. This simple machine brings joy without any advanced technology, just like this human brought hope without any advanced tools. Perhaps we have become too dependent on complexity, forgetting the value of simple solutions and direct connection. The council's lights flickered with discussion. Jack cleared his throat. "If I may say something." The head counselor nodded, lights pulsing with curiosity. "Where I come from," Jack said, his voice steady, "we judge people by their actions, not their technology. My friend here may be made of crystal and light, but they showed the same courage and friendship anyone would want in a friend. Maybe being advanced isn't about having the fanciest tools. Maybe it's about how you use what you have to help others." The chamber was silent for a moment. Then the head counselor's lights began to pulse with warm, bright patterns. "You speak with wisdom, human. Perhaps it is time for our peoples to learn from each other." The council erupted in agreements, their lights creating a beautiful display of colors. Jack's friend glowed with joy, its patterns matching the warmth of a sunrise. "Your workshop," the head counselor announced, "shall become our first cultural exchange center on Earth, a place where our peoples can share knowledge and understanding." Jack smiled. "Well, I'll need to clean up a bit first, but my door's always open to friends who want to learn about fixing things the human way." His alien friend's lights danced with happiness. Together, they had changed not just their own lives, but the future of human-alien relations, and it all started with a simple act of kindness and a well-used wrench. 1 year had passed since the night of the crash, and Jack's workshop had changed quite a bit. The old barn now had a sign that read "Earth's First Interstellar Repair Shop," hanging next to his original Jack's Fix-It Shop board. Both signs were slightly crooked, just the way he liked them. Inside, Jack was teaching a group of young crystal beings how to change the oil in an old truck engine. Their lights pulsed with excitement as they took turns using the basic tools, learning to feel the difference between tight and loose bolts. "Remember," Jack said, holding up a wrench, "the tool is just metal. The real skill is in your hands and mind." The alien student's lights flickered with understanding as they practiced. His friend from that stormy night, who now served as Earth's ambassador to the crystal people, stood in the corner watching. Its lights glowed with warm approval. "You know," Jack said later as they sat sharing a quiet moment, "when you first crashed here, I never thought I'd end up running an alien mechanical school." The aliens' lights formed patterns that Jack now understood as laughter. Over the past year, they had developed their own way of talking. A mix of light patterns, gestures, and simple words that worked for both of them. The workshop had become something special. One wall was covered with photos of different alien vehicles Jack had helped fix, each repair teaching both sides something new. Crystal beings often came with perfectly good ships, claiming they needed repairs, just for a chance to learn the human way of doing things. Even the hostile aliens they had defeated were changed. After their weapons failed against simple human ingenuity, their civilization began studying Earth's mechanical solutions. Now they sent students too, their once aggressive culture slowly learning the value of understanding simple technologies. Jack's old radio still played country music, and many crystal beings had learned to love these simple songs. Some had even started making their own music, combining their light patterns with Earth's traditional instruments to create something entirely new. The music box that had amazed the council now sat in a special place of honor in the workshop. Alien visitors would often stop to wind it up, marveling at how such a simple device could create such beautiful sounds. "You've changed us," the ambassador flashed in simple patterns. "Our people were becoming too dependent on automatic systems. We were forgetting the joy of creating and fixing things with our own hands." Jack nodded, tightening a bolt on a crystal ship's engine. "And you've changed us too. Humans are learning that being advanced doesn't mean leaving behind what works. It's about finding the best solution, whether it's high-tech or just a good old wrench. Outside, more ships were landing in what used to be Jack's wheat field. The government had officially designated the area as an interstellar cultural exchange zone, but most visitors just called it Jack's place. A young crystal being rushed in, its lights flashing excitedly. It held up a broken Earth bicycle, asking if Jack would teach it how to fix it. "Pull up a chair," Jack smiled, reaching for his toolbox. Lesson 1. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. The ambassador's lights pulsed with contentment as it watched Jack begin another lesson. In the corner, a group of crystal beings were trying to repair an old tractor, their lights synchronized with concentration. Through the window, more ships were arriving, bringing more visitors eager to learn. What had started with one human helping one alien had grown into something much bigger. It wasn't just about fixing machines anymore. It was about fixing the gap between civilizations, one wrench turn at a time. As the sun set over the workshop, Jack's friend made a light pattern that meant both thank you and family. Jack smiled, understanding perfectly. Sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest acts of kindness, and sometimes the simplest solutions create the strongest bonds between stars.